It's time to toughen up your defenses, whether you know or not. As far as I can see, let go, let go, was it blue skies from there? Did you see a green world from your side? Something in the west feels, something in the west feels, something in the west feels. Might be nothing at all. Oh, my beauty, blessing for you.
The first is manipulation. This is down at the non-participation side of the scale. In manipulation, communication is simply to get support or eliminate barriers to accomplishing a goal of the power holder. There's no expectation of shared agency, just execute upon the task I delegate or dictate. The second stage is the healing, reconciliation, fixing, therapeutic, or education approach. This often can become performative. It's very typical of when like outside trainers or facilitators come in for a one-time only experience that doesn't get integrated into new ways of being. And oftentimes it is a reaction to a negative event, such as a microaggression. Let's bring in a DEI expert to address this and get us all better and check the list. And while it's not a bad thing in and of itself, this gesture can often crush the fact that this work of equity, fairness, these 3 L's, never ends, and it also minimizes the subjectivity and individuality of each recipient of the work. Now, we're moving into tokenism now on her scale. Informing is the most typical kind of communicative interaction. It's a one-way flow of information and no feedback is sought. What, I wonder, is the risk of this kind of approach? Take a moment to consider it, given the way your prism may be expanding regarding power, inclusion, etc. The consulting approach is the brain doing its thing. It utilizes surveys and other mechanisms to invite opinions and insights. Sometimes this method leads to frustration if there's a sense that the input is not acted upon, that it was just for show, there's no outbound communication about how the insights helped the decider reach their determination. And then there's placation. This comes into play when an agent wants to influence the decision through the dispersal of so-called advice. Unfortunately, such gestures are often tokenistic or inauthentic. There's been a recent mass exodus of people of color from DEI positions, as we know, particularly women of color. And I sense this is in part due, when they've chosen to leave, to a sense of futility and betrayal, when such hires or contracts were a knee-jerk reaction to 2020. This behavior is highly present among many white progressive people when they start to feel uncomfortable, nervous, around some sort of external or societal proximity or interaction with that other. And this is really what you see happening a lot when white comfort is troubled. Next on her ladder, we're moving now into citizen power. Partnership. Partnership is a more enlightened phase on the ladder where outcomes are negotiated collectively. This is a labor, resource, and emotionally costly approach, and unless solid ground rules are stated and agreed upon in advance, it can often fall apart, leading to even worse consequences. Also important here is to have clarity about who will be the ultimate deciders. For example, is it majority vote? That's one formula. Is it consensus, etc.? You want to design and discuss. Delegated power is when the people have the dominant decision-making authority. Often this framework is utilized at the end of a rather inclusive, rigorous, and labor-intensive intake process. Many scenarios in work, life, society do not, unfortunately, afford this level of support or time. Ultimately, many sociologists looking at liberatory practices recommend shifting to this model and engineering for it, planning in advance for the additional time and resourcing needed. And then finally, the highest level of citizen participation on Arnstein's ladder is citizen control, wherein the people decide the policies, practices, governance, and conditions. This may be what some companies have experimented with in terms of a holacracy model. There are many challenges to this method, not least of which is the design of the decision process, and its inputs can end up taking up all of the time, resources, and space. And so the actual work the group was disposed to execute doesn't get done. Holacracies are also subjected at times to the tyranny of the most charismatic faction-building individual or group and other difficulties. So the question is, if holacracy is not valid, what about the concept of synergistic power? What would or could that look like? I don't have all the answers, but here's a cute cartoon I found. Combine authenticity with trust, navigating power and difference, all in the goal of a shared purpose, and you're going to have a tasty cake. Thanks a lot for listening.